Hi everyone, I'm the Broken Meeple. Win or lose, I'm going to be honest with you, and we're going to be very honest about my favourite games. This is the top 50, which I now do every year. Used to be a top 100, and then I kind of got sick and tired of trying to do 10 videos and 100 comparisons, on Pub Meeple. By all means, check out their site for ranking comparisons, but yeah, it was starting to get a little bit crazy. So for the last couple of years, I've restricted it to 50 games, and that seems to be the consensus among the fan base that 50 is a good number. If anything, it could even be 25 at this point, but I think 50 is good enough to get a decent selection of games that can chop and change, even though there will be some that are returning, just in different positions, but yeah, definitely I think this will be, I'll never go back to doing 100, it's just far too many. Got my little mascots here to join me for this, because let's face it, other than pictures, there's not much you can actually see. So I just crammed everything I remember having on shelves, whether it's the Takinoko Panda, the Dice Tower Panda, my little Yoda I got from somebody I used to know at a previous game club, and of course, Fizzgig. If you know the Dark Crystal, you know what a Fizzgig is. So I got a few disclaimers to mention first. There are, caveats with this list. Firstly, I just go onto Pub Meeple and I look, what have I ranked 8 to 10, and go, right, filter from that lot. But then that usually is about 250 to 300 games. So I have to think, well, which games could even stand a remote chance of being in my top 50? And so from that, I collate about 70, 80 games. Because there are games that I rank in 8 where I'm like, yeah, I like it, but there's no way it's going to be in my top 50. No way. So I try to do it from a smaller list. And honestly, I'm not that fussed about the stuff that's outside the 50, where it ranks in relation to other stuff. There's just too many games out there. I mean, there's not that many games I rank a 9 and a 10. I give those ratings out, with discretion, shall we say. But there's a lot of games that can be 7 and 8. And if I tried to, amalgamate and rank all my 7 and 8s, we'd be here until next year trying to do the list for this year. It's just too much. So I'm more concerned about the top 50 and anything that might have fallen out of it as opposed to where it is in my, say, 50 to 100. It's just not important. The other thing to bear in mind is that this is games that I am playing right now, kind of at this point, and this could be games that I've played a lot recently. This could be games that I'm just generally getting to the table more. It can be games that I legit think are 9 out of 10s and 10 out of 10s for my own personal thing as well. But you have to accept there are going to be games that I rank very highly that may not necessarily be my favourite ones to play at the moment. And that's not because I think the game is bad or it's gone down in its rating. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it does. But other times are because I give respect for what the game is, not necessarily because I'm enjoying it all the time. Like, for example, something like vegetable stock. It's one of the best little fillers you can get, right? Yeah, it could be a 10 out of 10 in terms of what it sets to achieve as a filler. It doesn't mean I want to play it every 5 minutes. Same goes for Cascadia. It's probably the best gateway game you can possibly get. Does it mean I want to play it over and over again every time I see someone? No, it doesn't. And there are going to be games that are ranked a 10 that might be lower on this list or not even in this top 50 compared to a 9, possibly even an 8, although probably more to a 9. But the fact of the matter is, it's a case of what am I playing now? What am I enjoying? What is getting to the table? What do I have a big desire to play? In terms of maybe it hasn't hit the table that much, but I really, really want to play it and I'm invested in doing so. But it's for my personal enjoyment this time round. It's not me being a critic of the game. It's me going, right, personally, this is what I'm having the most fun playing now. So before people get on my case as to where X ranks in relation to Y and stuff like that, this is a bit of fun. It's for me personally. It's it's my favorites as I'm doing it now as of February 2026. So let's not drill too deeply into the subliminal meaning of the various rankings here. Let's just have fun talking about 50 games. So without further ado, on with it. So 50 is a deck builder game. It's one of the cutest deck builders that there is. You can buy it in a big box set that encompasses various different mini sets that have come out throughout its life cycle, shall we say, and maybe there's more stuff to come, we don't know. But there's a Snowdell Designs, basically flagship game, Dale of Merchants. this is still a very good fun deck builder. I mean, you can tailor it to your heart's content with the different factions that you use, but it's such a simple idea, and yet it has a little tweak on the typical deck builder. It's a race, not a victory point game. You have to be the first one to achieve this goal, and as soon as you do it, that's it, you win. But the different factions that you use, whether it's pandas or crocodiles or owls or fruit bats or whatever, you know, drastically dictate what kind of strategies you can go for and how certain synergies can be done. When you buy a card, it goes straight to your hand. So you have it ready for the next time you want to use it. You know, you don't automatically discard your card. You have to do stuff with them in order to facilitate that. So there's a lot of different little tweaks that this has to the deck builder formula, but it's very cute. There's a ton of combos for it now. I mean, if you buy the big box set, you can even put special powers in as if it was a Cosmic Encounter game. I'm less enthused about doing that. I mean, I'll only do that with people who really know the game, or if I'm using only the green easy abilities. But for the most part, I will still play the game with all the different factions and just mix and match to my heart's content and say, yeah, if you know how to play a deck builder, you're going to enjoy this one. It's just cute, it looks lovely, it's colourful, it's just a nice design, and I still really enjoy it.
And death.
Before I go on to my 49, I should mention Daily Merchants, and I always forget to do this. Daily Merchants down 14 places from 36. So it has gone down, but not drastically. You know, it's still a very good deck builder. It just hasn't seen as much activity as others. Right, number 49, down 7 places from 42. Not a big deal. This is a specific iteration of this game, although to be honest, all these types of games could almost be shoved into this category, but not quite. Yeah, but certainly in terms of the big version and soon the little version, which I'm still miffed they never brought out subsequent little mini versions for this, Mysterium is still a very good big group party game to play. I like playing its big version, but I especially like Mysterium Park. That is the one that I say people should get. It's a small box, you can do it in about 30-45 minutes, 6 players tops, you know, circus theme, so you are playing to that particular, you know, like that artistic theme all the time, which is why, as I said, I am miffed that they didn't bring out like Mysterium School or Mysterium Camp or Mysterium Town Hall, I don't know. You know, they could have done so many different sets of this Mysterium and I would have bought every single one. And yet for some reason they just did Mysterium Park and that was it. What, Libelo, what exactly is your deal here? Why did you only do this one set? I need to know. Somebody from your company, get in the comments and tell me why you only did one set. Because seriously, I would have bought them all if you had done it. But it's a very nice condensed little set. Now, that's just not to say the big version is no good. Big version's still great. It just takes longer, is more of a setup chore, and there's a bit more to it. But the small version, really, really solid and just does a great job. But I like this one. Playing as the ghost is my favourite way to play, even more than the figuring out part. I just love being that one that has to sit there and go, how can I possibly link these Dixit cards together? I mean, don't know what to do. And then you put them out and you think, I think we're good. Think we're good. And then you listen to everybody's conversation and in your head, all you can think about is, oh God, we're all gonna die. Brings out a lot of laughter, a few little arguments of like, well, how could you not see that? Or why did you think this? You know, and it's just it's a fun, light-hearted experience. And I just really think the small box version was a perfect way to do it. Just bring us more. Damn it. Mysterium at 49. 48 up 10 places actually. This one's risen a little bit. It's had a couple of plays in recent months and I've seen other people play it as well. And also as I've played a couple of other Sudoku, I was about to say, social deduction games, and certainly noticing that everybody goes mad with things like Blood on the Clock Tower, which I've already said my piece on how much I hate that game. You know, this is just reminding me how good this one is. It's definitely, I think, my favourite of all the social deduction games, bar one. One will be a little bit later on this list. Third place would probably be, I would say, Werewords. I think that would be my third favourite. But second favourite is Deception, Murder in Hong Kong, or CS Files, whatever edition you've got. It's just a really good one, because the difference that this one has is, yes, it takes a little bit longer than something like Werewords, but no longer than, say, Feed the Kraken or any of those other ones that I'm not a fan of either. It's about the same length. But the thing is with this, is normally when you play a lot of these social deduction games, if you play the normal villager or the investigator in this case, you find that you got the boring job. It's like, yeah, I don't have any special powers. This is all I do. This one is not the same case though, because from the get-go, you get to be involved, because even as the investigator, you're still trying to figure out who could possibly have done it and what they used. So you're doing a little deduction puzzle while you're playing the good guys. That being said, of course I love being the bad guys in this, trying to hide away behind, misleading and a false pretense, but then I like being the forensic scientist, having to come up with the clues and trying to think, oh god, the group's not getting it, I need them to get this bit. Scrap that tile. Right, come on. Right, alright, we're doing it in a hospital, okay? Hospital. Now start thinking about sharp objects. Now come on, and that, again, same for Mysterium. I mean, that's funny that they're so close together. It's a very fun game, regardless of, really, its player count. I mean, anywhere between 6 and 12 players. I've had great fun with this. You need the expansion to have a proper sort of 12-player game with all the roles, but, 6 to 12, using a different number of, like, murder, accomplice, and various other roles. It's such a good fun game. But another thing is that I hate in games like Feed the Kraken and Secret Hitler and all those ones where you have no information from the get-go. The Resistance has this problem as well. The first round, or two even, might as well be cut out of the game, because it means nothing. You have no information to go on, you have no reason to distrust anyone, so you might as well just let the first round play out, and most of the time it will be success, because at the end of the day, why the hell would you scupper the first round? It's just going to make life harder for you. So those ones all suffer for that result, for that reason. But Deception Murder in Hong Kong doesn't have that problem, because from the get-go you have the weapons on show. You have reason to believe that someone could be the murderer. That does look pretty, based on the clues you got, that scalpel along with that blood sample, that does look pretty damning for you. And it's not, they may not necessarily be the murderer. They've got to convince you otherwise, but you have a reason to suspect them from the get-go, and this is not brought up enough when they talk about this game, and it is not highlighted as a big enough flaw in these other games like Feed the Kraken and that everyone seems to go ape over. I don't know. This one is far better than any of those. I've talked about it for too long. 48, Deception Murder in Hong Kong.
Okay, the murderer was Don't Care with a This Game Sucks in the I Regret Having Children.
Clue. 47. Whew, it's gone down 34 places. Yeah, this one has not had the plays, and also there is one flaw with the game that is starting to become a little bit more apparent, but I still, again, I really enjoy this game, guys. It's still great. It's another Uri Rosenberg game, although it's technically a dual design. It's not just Uri Rosenberg, there's someone else in there as well. I can't remember the name, I'll have to put it on screen, but this is effectively the sequel to Glass Road, which is Black Forest. Black Forest is still really good fun. All the different little villager spaces that you got to move to, while taking into account where everybody else is, because that's going to make life more expensive. Plus, you're giving them stuff. You're not just paying; you're giving them stuff. Resources to spend. But being able to swap some of the locations around, just makes the board a lot more dynamic than something like Glass Road. Where Glass Road was more to do with a card system. But in this one, you still have that cool aspect of here's your board. Now what am I going to do? Build a few planes, build some lakes, could build these couple of buildings, that could work. Maybe I want to raise cows this game. Maybe I'm not interested in that. Maybe I just want to, do other things, like build it in this kind of way. Perhaps I want to expand like crazy. Shall I focus entirely on making lots of glass? There's a few different ways you can approach it, but I do seem to find that maybe you do sort of approach it in a fairly similar way each time, maybe one or two changes, and of course there is a lot going on with all the different buildings that you got to look at in advance and think, what the hell am I supposed to do with all this? It's a bit of an information overload at first, which does cause some AP issues. But that being said, it's still really good fun. It's a table hog for sure. It definitely is going to demand your entire table. But the rules in it are really smooth. You can teach this in no time at all. It's all about the options and the way you play it. That is where the depth comes from. It's well produced. There is a ton of tiles, ton of different boards and things like that you use. It looks colourful. It's, very tactical, because yes, you might be thinking, well, I'm building up to this, but depending on what villages you can go into, where everyone else is, how much it costs, it is going to make you change up your strategy a little bit over time. And I love those resource wheels. Who doesn't love those resource wheels? They're just such a cool idea for resource tracking. The fact that the two of them work in conjunction with each other is just like, it's such a cool design, and I would love to see more games try it, but obviously this is very much a Glass Road / Black Forest Uri Rosenberg type design, so I don't know how easy it would be for other games to kind of nick this idea, but it would be cool. I think it's really good in this one. So do I prefer it to Glass Road? spoiler alert, yes, I do prefer it to Glass Road. Not to say I dislike Glass Road. Glass Road would be somewhere in my top 150 easily, but I'm definitely preferring Black Forest.
I beg to differ, sir.
46 down, 19 places from 27 is Czech Game Editions, although you wouldn't believe it was Czech Game Editions because Vladimir Suchy is not generally associated with Czech Game Editions. This is like the one game he did with them, because normally it's Delicious Games that you find him with, but for some reason he just did this one with CGE, and I still think it's his best design. Oh, actually, no. It's not his best design, spoiler alert, but it's definitely his second best, and that is Pulsar 2849. And even then, this one could probably alternate with the other one each year. You know, they're in different positions, but one year I might prefer the other one, and one year I prefer this. Pulsar 2849 is a pure mid-weight, pure point salad.
I admire its purity.
As pure as you can get. I mean, it is just whatever the theme is, who cares? It's point salad. You've got different things that you can do and they get you points. But you've still got to play well. You've still got to be efficient. You don't get a lot of turns. But it's a very simple game to teach. It's very sort of neon sparkly on the table. You got a lot of variation with the different technologies and the way the game could be set up. But I love the dice mechanic in this. The way that the dice is not like, oh, I need at least this amount or anything like this. No, it's I need the exact number. So you don't have to teach people the weird variants in that respect. But also the idea that when you choose the dice for what you're going to do actions with, you have to factor in your position on the turn order and the, what do they call it? The, I forget what they call it. I don't know, I'm just going to call it the supplies track. You know, you get the cubes and you can do stuff with them, but those two tracks are paramount importance. And as soon as you take, if you take a low value die, your disc moves positively on one of those two tracks. But if you take one that's higher value, it's going to move negative. And you have to kind of balance the two out or suffer the consequences as a result. And it's just a really cool little neat system that I don't see in many games, and it really works well for this one. It's just very smooth, fairly straightforward to teach, but a lot of options, still point salad. Every turn feels rewarding in some respect. You know, you don't feel like, you know, that sucked. No, you still got points. You still got a little bonus. Every little bit helps. It's just a cool, neat little game. And very few people talk about this one. You know, you see people talk about all these designs from Delicious Games, and why? Some of those games are not particularly good, guys. They're pretty boring, or shall we say forgettable. I mean, who the hell is playing Messina 1349 anymore? You know, I don't even see that many people play Shipyard. Not even the new version of Shipyard that came out. Wasn't that supposed to be one of his stellar designs? One person has mentioned Woodcraft in the last few months that I've seen online. That's about it. So it's like, why does this one not get talked about more? It's a solid game. I don't know, but even if I'm going to be the one that champions it, so be it.
Shut up, Wesley.
45 down, I think 27 places from 18. Yeah, this one rose up a lot in one year, but it is still a struggle to get this one to the table, even though I can play it solo more often. But it is still going to be high up. It's still going to be like a top 100 game for me, because it's been vastly improved by an expansion. It very much needed this expansion to get up this high. It's a Star Wars game, very thematic. I can play with up to 3 players and still have a good time. 4 is too long. But I can play this solo and still have a great time, and that is Star Wars Outer Rim, which is just out of camera shot, I think. And, you know, the Unfinished Business expansion really upped this one like highly. It fixed a lot of the problems that the original game had. The decks needed to be bigger. They could still be bigger, but fine. The decks of cards they're bolstered. But the travel between the 2 quadrants of the galaxy is now a lot easier. The solo mode is improved. The bounty hunters behave a little better. You've got the different paths of ambition paths that you can follow, which kind of dictates a strategy you should follow, which is great for new players and even veteran gamers alike. What else you've got? You've got the negotiation between other players. That's a relatively small aspect, but it's still all well and good. There's just a lot of neat stuff that the Unfinished Business expansion did to make this game a lot better, and as a result, it's now one that will always easily be in my top 100, I think, for a long time. It's just not got the place, because it still requires a bit of an effort to get to the table and a bit of effort to get people organised for it, and not to mention, if you're not playing it solo, it's going to be quite a long affair. But it's going to be a fun affair, and I've had this bolstered up with tokens from Buy the Same Token, I think they're called, and you know, they've made some really nice kind of like, you know, what do you call it, acrylic style credit tokens and various other stuff for the game. It's expensive, it's a luxury, but boy does it make the game look good on the table. Combine it with a playmat and you've got a very nice spectacle for a fun Star Wars game.
Best bounty hunter in the league. We are bounty hunters.
44 dropped 7 places, so not a great deal. It's still a very good, I would say, what's the best way to describe it? A Magic the Gathering style card tableau play game. It's kind of weird to describe, but it's got a very unique mechanic. Made by Liberload, quite an oldish game now. I think it came out something like easily a good 12, 13 odd years ago, and it gives me such a high when you've seen me roll those big chunky dice. Yes, it's Seasons. Seasons is still really, really solid. You know, this cool game where you've got 3 years around this track, like as a timer track, but depending on what season you're in, you roll these different boulder-sized dice to get mana to play your cards and do funky effects and build an engine. So it's kind of Magic the Gathering-esque style like card play, and there are other instances of this type of thing later on in the list actually, but this one is still a really good solid one because it looks gorgeous. It's good. That timer track is really fun to manipulate because you know sort of where it's going to end up, but if you're the last one to draft the dice, you get to decide where it's going to end up, and you know, whether you want to change from winter to summer is going to be depending on what cards you've got, what dice and mana you need. So is that cool aspect there, but you can make the timer track go forward and backwards with certain items. And even though I do think the expansions are hit and miss, I mean, the new mechanics that they throw into the expansions I think are a bit touch and go, but you get new cards and you can throw those in for the most part, I think, if not in all cases, without using any of the new rules. So if you just buy the expansions to bolster up all the cards, you have so many different cards that you can muck around with in terms of building a cool little strategy. And I love the idea that you draft a bunch of them at the start of the game, and then this is what you've got to work with for the game, plus maybe a few more that you draw. Some people love to praise the mountaintops of Res Arcana. I'm sorry, this one is better. It looks better, it's more fun, yes it's longer, but it's more fun, more varied, and just more interesting than Res Arcana was. And I know some people are going to bite my head off for that one. But this one, whether I'm getting on a high rolling those boulder dice or just enjoying the card play, it's still really solid so many years later.
I like that boulder. That is a nice boulder.
43 down 13 places is from Mighty Boards, and this is a game that I think I rated it a 10 originally. I suppose in hindsight maybe it's more closer to a 9 at this point. You know, I think it's maybe dropped to a 9, but it's still a really solid game that didn't get anywhere near enough buzz. I mean, it got a small amount of buzz at the time. You know, it sold out and did well for them then, but nobody's really talked about it, and I don't see it being played unless I bring it to the table. But they are bringing out a new version on Kickstarter soon with an expansion, so I'm hoping that Art Society will get a little bit more love. It's still really, really good. One of those typical types of tile laying games where you've got your board and you're putting these rectangular and square tiles, no Tetris nonsense on this, you know, on your board in an efficient way to score points. But you've got to be careful about where you put certain paintings based on their theme or their border. But what I love about this one is the fact that when you have your people will decide which paintings that are size-wise they're going to take out of the box for the draft effectively, and then you bid, like close bid, to basically go, right, I'm going to get first dibs on this lot. But whenever you choose a painting, you've got about 4 different things you need to think about. Because first thing you need to think about is size. Where is it going to fit? The color of the border. You can't have certain colors. You know, some case, I can't remember if it's the type of painting or the color of painting that matters. But basically, in one case, you want them to be the same color, and in other cases, you don't. Like the theme and that. But you've got to think about the color of the border. Okay, the type of border. Then you've got to think about the type of painting itself. And then you've also got to think about, like, you know, how much you're going to spend on it. And also, the last one that doesn't get taken influences the points value of all that particular type of painting on final scoring. So there's all those different things you've got to think about every time you pick up a painting.
Oh, Jesus! Oh, God! Oh, Jesus!
You've only got so many turns in the game, so you've got to be very efficient. You know, are you going to try and rush to fill up your board? Or are you going to just take your time and just make certain you've got the best paintings that you can possibly get? And of course, everybody else, you might be thinking, well, hang on, what's the likelihood you're going to take the painting I want? Do I need to outbid you for this one? How important is that painting to me? And it's just, It's just a really cool, simple game with, you know, a funky little insert and just a decent amount of depth. I'm very interested to see what they do in the expansion to make it better. I'm hoping that they'll, you know, not make it too complicated. I just want them to streamline the process maybe with the insert and, you know, the gameplay in general, which they could do with the second edition, but with the expansion, I want to see what else, you know, takes place. So I'm excited to see what they've got planned. But honestly, if you've not had a chance to try this game, I do highly recommend you should.
Thank you, Mr. Cowboy. I'll take it under advisement.
42, down 4 places. Who cares? 4 places doesn't really mean anything. This is another deck builder. I do like deck building games, but I like deck building games with a bit of a twist. And this one is probably the only game I can sing the praises from later games.
Are you prepared for the kind of death you've earned, little man?
Because I'm not the biggest fan of Root. Don't particularly like Arcs. I gave it an average rating at best, that was it. I have no intention to play Oath. You know, they're just not a company that really works for me. Except for this little card game, which is the one that nobody speaks about, which is really annoying. And that is Fort. Fort is this great idea for a deck builder. You know, the theme actually works with it. That's difficult to do with a deck builder. It's kind of like American Kids on Recess, you know, and I'm using American terms specifically here, where, you know, the kids are trying to play with each other. And you've got, you know, a deck of cards that are basically the different kids, and each one has like a little ability that works for you as a solo player, but also with other players in the group. You know, like you get something and then the other players get to do something else. But the idea is that you only play one of them, and the power could be augmented by playing more of the same type, more of the same suit, so they've all got different suits. But the cool thing with this, and why the theme works, is that you only get to play one kit and boost it with as many as you can. The ones that you keep in your hand and don't use go in front of your board, and then at the end of the turn you must recruit more kids. And this could come from a public display, but it can come from other people's boards. You know, if you don't play with a kid, they basically throw a hissy fit and go play with someone else, and somebody else could nick them and use them in their deck. It's such a cool idea. You know it's coming. You know it's a risk when you don't use the card. So it's not like it's a mean take that thing. They've got to have a reason to take the card off you, and you're the one who put it there. You don't want them to nick the card, and don't make sure it doesn't go there. And it's just such a cool thematic reasoning for it. And other than that, it's just a standard game where you race to, you know, trigger the end game and then get victory points. It's really cool. Looks the part. The artwork actually works with this game, unlike, I suppose it kind of works with Root. It didn't work with Arcs at all, but this art style definitely works with Fort. And I have the mini expansion, so dog and cats in here, and it makes the game even better. Because the dogs have a thematic tie-in with the game, and so do the cats, but it's more ways to score points, more cool little abilities you can trigger, and it's not difficult to introduce it into the game for new players. It's just really, really good, you know. So this deck builder definitely deserves a bit more love. Everybody rags on about Root and Arcs and that. Honestly, this is the game that I think they should have done more of, you know, or maybe expanded further, or just done another type of iteration, because it's so unlike the other games that this publisher has made, and yet, in my opinion, it's their best. Yeah, fight me.
I'll give you a piece of
And then finally, down 24, is that down 17? No, down 17 places from 24. Yeah, there's just a lot of games that I've been playing more, and this one is definitely a bit of a table hog and a big one to get to the table. Although I do like playing it solo every now and again, which is why it's still like up here in the 50, and I still really enjoy this one. It's just a bit of a big box, as you can see. It's a difficult one to get to the table. It's Pursuit of Happiness, though. This is the Game of Life Euro Edition, which I still really enjoy. I've got everything that you can get for this game in terms of the cards, and I don't think that you need, you know, I mean, I've done guide videos for this ages ago. If you want like a proper detailed review of this game and all the expansions, then check out all the video content I've done, because believe me, I've done a lot of it. And it's old stuff, but it's still good stuff, I hope. But the idea is that you don't need all the expansions. I think Community is really, really good. And Nostalgia, if you get it sort of by itself, is decent as well. I'm less keen on the Experiences one. I think the Experiences expansion is the last one that you should get out of all the expansions. The mini expansions you can just shove in as much as you like, because for the most part it's just new cards. You might get the odd little extra mechanic like how kids work and stuff like that, but for the most part it's just more cards. Thug's Life, it's just more funky little cards to do with being a criminal, effectively, you know. So there's just lots of those that you can shove in for more variety. But It's got a good theme for its card play. I love the fact that it just tells a story of your life and you can have fun with everybody else as to what stories they're telling. Yes, I used to be a political activist who wrote a play, started it himself, married Sheila, got divorced, didn't work out too well, but eventually became president of the United States until eventually I couldn't keep up the job, so I decided to train as a ninja and join a biker gang. I mean, you can create all sorts of weird lives for your characters in this, and all for the process of getting victory points effectively. But whether it's solo or in a group, this is still just a fun card game to play that isn't, it can get a little bit fiddly at first for new players, and I do recommend that you curb it somehow. You might want to house rule maybe the length of the game with a 4-player experience, because 4 players does take, I think, too long with this game, and that is one thing that does hurt it. But, at solo, 2-player and 3-player tops, this is still a really good fun one to play. It's just colourful, zany, but given that we've had various ones like Civolution or CV-lution or whatever it used to be called, and we've had the recent what was the one I recently reviewed? Was it called Civolution? No, what was it called? Coming of Age, yes, the new one from Ludent Nova. I've reviewed some of these games there, and they've been okay with their theming, but they don't hold a candle to Pursuit of Happiness. This is the one you get if you want the whole game of life experience in a board game, hands down. Just maybe hold back on buying everything for it straight off.
It is just that the luxury edition has so much more ego.
And with that, we have my 50 to 41, so 4 more videos to go, batches of 10, and there's definitely some movers and shakers. There's going to be some new titles in the next batch. Yes, you will definitely start seeing a couple of new games featuring now. These ones you've seen before, but as you can see, some of them have just basically kind of dropped from higher up. There's only so many games, 1 or 2 rises here, but yeah, there's only so many games I can get into my 50, and of course it's what I'm playing now. These games may have been ones that I was playing a lot more previously, and it's just been a little bit harder to get them to the table, so there's all sorts of different reasons. But frankly, if you're in my top 50 games, you're getting sung the praises of anyway. Like, if anybody says, any of these 50 games, I'd like to play this game next week, I'll be like, yeah, please. It'd be great fun. So that's it for me on this episode of The Broken Meeple. If you like what you see, then please thumb it up and share it about social media. It's all good for the algorithm. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Do you love or hate these games? I don't care if you hate these games. You can think these are absolute garbage. Fine, it's my list. At the end of the day, it's not going to faze me. But I want to know your thoughts for yay or nay on these games. Just tell me why. I'm interested to know why you love or hate these games, not necessarily the fact that you do. The why is always more important. Until next time though, remember, it's only a game, and I'll see you on the next batch of 10 of the top 50. Take care.